السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله يا رحمة الله الواسعة سيدي يا أبا عبد الله لأندبنك يا صباحا ومساء ولأبكين عليك بدل الدموع دمع يا ليتنا ثم يا ليتنا كنا معكم فنفوز فوزا عظيما. قال الله تعالى في كتابه الكريم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم يا أيها الذين آمنوا قوا أنفسكم وأهليكم نارا وقودها الناس والحجارة صدق الله العلي العظيم. أفلح من صلى على محمد وآل محمد.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this holy verse would order the believers, Ya ayyuha alladhina amanu, call upon the believers, would tell them, Qu anfusakum wa ahlikum, protect yourselves and your families. From what? From a fire whose fuel is people and stones. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala here is asking us to protect ourselves and our families from a hellfire. Now, us as a society, or us as individuals, we can't really live without a society. For we need to be around the society in every aspect of life. For example, when I go to the grocery store and I buy my groceries, there needs to be a whole society that runs the marketplace in which the grocery items appear in front of me, where I can go in and buy those groceries and leave the grocery store. When I get ill, I go to the hospital, and there's a whole system in the hospital. Who runs this hospital? Obviously, again, we need the society that runs this system, the hospital, for me to be able to go to the hospital and get cured. So in every aspect in life, we need to be around the society. Now, Islam is aware of this aspect. This is why we find Islam care about so many relationships and how we deal with them. For example, we find Islam teach us how to deal with our brothers, our siblings. For example, the relationship between the student and the teacher, the relationship between the parents and their children, the relationship between those who are related to each other, and so on and so forth. Islam has taken care of all of these relationships. Now, one of the very important relationships that Islam has paid a very strong attention to is the relationship of the individual and his family. This is why we found the verse say, protect yourself and your families, not just yourself. And it didn't say protect yourself and your teachers, or yourself and your friends. No, yourself and your families. There's a very special relationship that Islam tries to highlight between the individual and his family. For the family, according to Islamic teachings, is the core of society. If I can raise a righteous family, that will be the first brickstone for a righteous community. And if I raise a bad family or a corrupt family, then that family will have a negative impact on society. So the core of a righteous society is a righteous family, a family that is protected from the hellfire, as the verse is asking us to do, to protect ourselves and our families. So indeed, if Islam is focusing that much on a family, Islam will also focus a lot on actually building a family, then to protect that family. So in today's lecture, my aim is to focus on these 2 points. The first point is how Islam focused on the fact of building a family, so getting married and procreating and so on. And then how Islam is focusing on us and teaching us how to protect this family that we built. So how can we raise our children, so on and so forth. Inshallah, we'll be able to highlight these 2 main points after the Salah ala Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad. As for the first point, which is building a family, as we mentioned, the institute of a family is a very sacred institute in Islam. It is the first brickstone of a righteous society. In today's age, we find there's a big fight against this institute of a family. They're trying to reframe what a family means, or change the meaning of a family. In Islam, it is very clear, the family. It is a husband and wife and their children. Very clear. Now, how is this emphasized, one may say? Give me the proof. How does Islam emphasize the idea of getting married and procreating and so on? We will start from a narration by the Prophet ﷺ, where he says, تَنَاكَحُوا تَنَاسِلُوا فَإِنِّي أُبَاهِي بِكُمُ الْأُمَمَ يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ. The Prophet would say, تَنَاكَحُوا means get married, تَنَاسِلُوا, procreate, for I will take pride in you in the day of judgment in front of the other nations. So the Prophet is asking us, O believers, those who believe in my message, get married, procreate, raise children, so that you form a community where on the day of judgment, in front of all of the other nations, I can say, I'm proud of these guys. This is how the Prophet is emphasizing that we need to think of how we will to build our families, to raise children and so on. So this is the first step. Now based on this, one would say, does that mean I just get married straight away without conditions and bring as many children as I want? No, this is not the case, obviously. Islam also has set conditions on when I want to get married, what do I look for, so on and so forth. And has set certain conditions when I think of the number of children I want to raise and so on. Now in terms of the first question, getting married, we said Islam emphasizes this, and we should really think about it. Does that mean I just get married? No. The first thing, or the first conditions that Islam set for marriage is إِذَا جَاءَكُمْ مَنْ تَرْضَوْنَ دِينَهُ وَخُلُقَهُ فزوجوه ألا تفعلوا تكن فتنة في الأرض وفساد. The narration would say, if somebody has came and asked to marry you, and that person, you agree with their deen, their religious standard. They are practicing religiously. They are practicing. They perform their salah. They perform their song. He's known in the community. That's the first condition. Is he a person who is a practicing Muslim? The second condition is, do you agree with their moral standard, with their ethics? Is he a person or is she a person that is trustworthy? Is he or she a person that I can trust with my future? Is he or she a person that everyone praises around? So if I agree with their moral standards and I agree with them religiously, these are the two main conditions. The narration would say, if you agree with these 2 points and yet you reject the marriage, you will cause corruption on earth. One would ask how? Because the first thing now you did is, there was an opportunity for a righteous family to be built, for a family to be built where Rasulullah would be proud of on the Day of Judgment, but you let go of this opportunity. And we mentioned Rasulullah wants us to build families that he can be proud of on the Day of Judgment, as the narration that we recited at the beginning. So this is the first point. The condition is the person, I need to accept their religious standard and their moral standard. These 2 points. What else? Islam has taught us to lower the barriers as well. Nowadays in our society, there's too much barriers when it comes to marriage. Too many barriers. The first barrier is the families ask for a very high dowry, for example. Or sometimes the man or the woman, they would ask for impossible standards. I want him to have 6 figures, and for him to be handsome, and for him to be known and famous, and so on. And for the guy, he wants her to be very beautiful and have the religion of the scholars, and to, at the same time, to be a successful businesswoman. So these are impossible standards. But the standards need to be lowered from the families when it comes to the dowry and so on, and from the man and the woman themselves. Lower your standards. The 2 main standards that the Prophet told us of, or the Ahlul Bayt told us of, religious standard, moral standard. These 2. Think of these 2. These are the main 2. So now we did the first step into building a family, which is marriage. And we showed how Islam has emphasized getting married and not delayed. Think about it. Put it in as part of your life goals. The second step is to procreate. As we said, get married, procreate, for I will take pride in you on the Day of Judgment. These are the words of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Now when it comes to children, does that mean for me to raise as many children as possible? Unlimited? That's also not the case. Sometimes we find, unfortunately, very poor families, yet they have 8 children. By the way, the words of Ahlul Bayt emphasize procreating, and they say, when you bring children, God will bless you with the child. Yet there are narrations that mention, if you are in a difficult economic situation, hold back. We have such narrations when it comes to children. So each person assess your conditions, how many children you can raise, but think about it. Don't put children as a last point after all of your priorities. No. Put it as part of your priorities. Now when I'm young and I'm planning my next life steps, I will go to university, I want to do this, I want to work, I want to improve my career, so on. And it's a very valid goals to have. In fact, I urge you to have such goals. But put alongside these goals that when do you want to get married? Think of a family as a project that you're working on. Any project you work on, you plan it out. When do you want to get married? How many children you want to have? What income are you aiming for so you can raise that many children? It's a very sacred project to work on. Ahlul Bayt emphasized it. Work on families. So the idea when the Prophet tells us to marry and procreate doesn't mean without limits. It means put it as part of your priorities in life. Don't keep it and then suddenly you decide, okay, I want to get married now. Suddenly you decide, okay, let's bring children. Without having priorities. Once you set your priorities, you set your standards, even when you come and decide to get married, you know your priorities. You're going to tell your future partner, I want 1, 2, 3, 4. So even that will reduce the number of conflict that happens between the couples. So this is one side. The side of building the family. Now that we have built the family, what did the verse tell us at the beginning of the lecture? قُوْ أَنفُسَكُمْ وَأَهْلِيكُمْ. Protect yourself and your families from hellfire. Obviously, simply building a family and bringing children alone is not enough. I need to take care of those children. And Islam has taught us step by step how we can take care of those children. I will try and focus on two sides that Islam focused on. One is the material side. So the side of me having to spend on my children and so on. The other side is the nurturing side. So raising them up, how to raise them up, and so on. These are the two sides I'm going to focus on, and how Islam focused on these two sides. And how these two sides will help us to reach to the conclusion. Our main goal in today's lecture is to reach to the conclusion of the verse. Protect yourself and your families from hellfire. How can I protect myself and my families? Now somebody came to the Rasulullah when they had this verse. He said, "Oh Rasulullah, how can I protect my family from the hellfire?" Rasulullah told him, whatever Allah has ordered you to do, then order your family to do so. By order, he means motivate your family, teach your family to do so. And whatever Allah has forbidden on you, forbid your family to do it as well. If they listen to you, if your family listen to you, you have successfully protected them from the hellfire. If they didn't listen to you, you have done your obligation, your part, as an individual. So the first side that Ahlul Bayt teaches us to take care of the children is the material side. For we find countless number of narrations where Ahlul Bayt say that the person who spends on his children, what kind of rewards does he get? I'll give you one, for example. One of the Imams will tell us, Al-Kaddu ala ayalih kal-mujahid fi sabilillah. The one who spends on his children or on his family is equal to the one who does jihad for the sake of Allah. Their status is one. This is how important it is when every day I go to work and earn my income for the sake of feeding my family. According to Allah, I'm equal to the one who does jihad for the sake of Allah. So, spending on my children, letting them live a life that is honorable, pushing away humiliation from them, spending on their food, on their education, making sure they live a happy life as much as they can. It is something that is a very noble goal, according to Ahlul Bayt Salamullah alayhi. Somebody would come to Imam al-Baqir. He would tell him, "Oh, my master, I gained 3,000 dirhams. This is my income. I spent 2,000 of those 3,000 dirhams on my children to feed them, to keep my house, and so on. And 1,000 I spend it to charity. Are you happy with, am I doing good? Is my expenditure good this way? The Imam would tell him, if those 2,000 is enough for you to make your family live an honorable life, then what you're doing is amazing. It's great. See, the Imam praised the man under a condition. That the priority is your children. These 2,000 that you're spending on the children, are they enough? Very good. Spend the other 1,000 however you want. On charity, on other stuff. If the 2,000 were not enough, no, increase. Make it 2,500 on the children. The priority is children. So the Imams taught us that this is the priority. To spend on the family. Provide for them. This is one aspect when it comes to the material side. Another aspect is to make sure that the income that I gain comes in a halal way, in an Islamically permitted way. That the money that I'm feeding into my children doesn't come from a haram source. For yes, the children themselves may not be punished for eating what I'm providing for them, even if it was from a haram source. Yet, that will definitely have side effects on the children. For we have a narration where it says, العبادة على الحرام أو على المال الحرام كالبناء على الرمل. To perform ibadah, to perform any kind of worship that is based on eating haram food. By haram food I mean from a haram source of income. It is like building a building with a sand base. So it's a weak base. Any ibadah that is based on a haram income is like building a building on a sand base. It's a weak base. So the children may not be punished for eating what I provide for them, even if it was a haram source of income. But they will be affected spiritually. So making sure that what I earn, my earning, is all halal, is all permitted Islamically. This is the second side. The third, now if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has blessed me with extra income, there is a special emphasis on a concept called tawsi'a ala al-'iyal, which means to generously spend on my children. For we find narration that says, whoever Allah has blessed him with extra income, then he must generously spend on his children. By generously spend, I mean, for example, raise their living standard. For example, if you buy a certain type of rice that is not the best type, and Allah has blessed you with extra income, buy the better type of rice for your children, if they like it. For example, if you're riding a certain type of car, buy the better one. Now one would say, what is the limit? We say, without being extravagant. For even the Quran says, while describing the believers, the mu'mineen, الَّذِينَ إِذَا أَنفَقُوا, those who, when they spend, الَّذِينَ إِذَا أَنفَقُوا لَمْ يُسْرِفُوا وَلَمْ يَقْتُرُوا وَكَانَ بَيْنَ ذَلِكَ قَوَامًا. So those who, when they spend, in describing the believers, those are the believers. When they spend, they don't spend extravagantly, and they don't spend in a stingy manner. However, they spend in a moderately in between, in a moderate way. This is how the Quran is describing it. So if Allah has blessed somebody with extra income, it is highly emphasized that you raise the standard of living of your family. This is the concept of tawsi'a ala al-'iyal. So materially, Islam, as you can see, has focused that we materially have to provide for the children. Make sure they live a life where they are not humiliated in comparison to the others. I try to make them live an honorable life. This is one side. Now, is this side enough? For some families, they say, I'm providing for my children, I did my part. No, this is not enough. Because just providing and leaving other institutes to raise my children up is problematic. I need to make sure to raise them up on the right teachings, on the right moral standards. So the material side is emphasized. But when we come to the nurturing side, it's even more emphasized. Now when it comes to the nurturing side, how can we raise our children in the right manner? there are a few tips that we can go step by step. The first tip is to, first of all, teach them the right disciplines. For we find that the Imams would say the best thing a son can inherit from their parents, or a child can inherit from their parents, is discipline. The narration itself would say discipline and not money. For wealth can perish, but discipline cannot. It will remain with him throughout his life. So the number one thing is to teach them the right disciplines, how to be disciplined, and not leave this idea for other institutes to teach my child. This is advice number one. Advice number two, when it comes to discipline, is to give them time. The issue in our day and age, we find it difficult to have enough time to do everything. We have an issue of time management. I come back from work at 6, sometimes 7 p.m. I'm already tired. I don't have enough time to spend with my child. And during the weekend, both me and my child have a distraction with us that none of us talk to each other because of this distraction. The child is on his iPad and I am on my phone. And then I say, oh, I spend time with them. I need to spend an active time with them, not a passive time. Talk to them, see what their issues is, make them feel that I care about them. Children, at the end, they need time. I need to somehow manage my time in a way where I squeeze certain time for my children. It is important to give and keep time for them. So this is the second. The first is to discipline them. Second is to give them enough time. Now, third thing, or third advice, is to monitor what they are doing. By monitoring, I mean, what are they studying in school? Who is teaching them? How is the school teaching them? That is one side. Another side, what apps or games do they have on their phones, on their iPads? What YouTube channels are they watching every day? I don't mean that you need to spy on your child. That's not what I'm asking for. No, just know what they are watching. This is what I mean by monitor. Because in this day and age, if we don't monitor our children, there are thousands of ways where people can instill different teachings onto our children. So we need to be very careful and monitor every step. In school, who are their friends with them? Monitor their friends. What kind of friends are they going out with? Are they affecting them negatively or positively? So on and so forth. So this is also important. So if we combine these points and how Islam pushes us to both provide materially for our children and nurture them the right way with Islamic teachings, then we can apply what the verse is asking us to do. We have successfully applied. Protect yourself and your families from the hellfire. The verse is addressing the believers. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu. Number one, we have protected ourselves. Number two, we have built a family just like Rasulullah wanted us to. And number three, we have protected that. That alone is a great achievement. Don't think of it as a small thing. To build a righteous human being is a great achievement. And it's a difficult achievement. When I say these things, I don't mean they're an easy thing. They could be more difficult than other business projects. They are very difficult to raise a righteous person. And I thank our parents that they bring us here every year, despite all of the other things that are taking place right now, despite their jobs, despite their work. Of the individuals that we can really learn from, and they have protected themselves and their families from the hellfire, and they have set an example for us of how we can raise our children in the right way, with the right aqidah, with the right belief, with the right manners, is Lady Al-Bani Salamullah alayhi. For she and her children has set a standard for all of us. 4 children, not 1 or 2, 4 children. All 4 of them carried on with Imam Hussain till the end of their lives. So she raised them on the right aqidah. From a young age, she would tell them, don't tell Imam Hussain, don't tell him brother. Tell him my Imam, my master, because he's your Imam. So from a young age, she's teaching them the right belief system. From a young age, she's teaching them the right manners. When they told Imam Hussain they would be with him, they carried on with him till the end, till they gave their lives, all 4 of them. Isn't this lady from amongst those who protected themselves and their families? She really is an example that we can learn from. My dear brothers and sisters, it is said after the tragedy of Karbala, the caravan, after they went to Asham, they came back to Medina. صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. The caravan came to Medina. People went around the gate of Medina and were looking who is coming. Everyone wondered who was coming. Then Imam Sajjad began to call the caravan leader, the leader of the caravan. His name was Bishr ibn Hadna. He told him, "Oh Bishr, I heard that your father was a poet." Bishr would reply, "Yes, my master, he was." Then he told him, "I also recite poetry." Imam Sajjad then told Bishr, "Please announce who we are to the people of Medina." Bishr would then say, "Ya ahla Yathrib la muqama lakum biha." O people of Medina, there is no place for you in it anymore. They asked Bishr, "What is the issue, oh Bishr?" Bishr would say, "Follow me to the mosque of Rasulullah." What happened, oh Bishr? قتل الحسين فأدمعي مجرار. Hussain has been killed, therefore my tears are flowing. Here comes a lady through the crowd that she made her way. She would ask Bishr, "Oh, tell me, oh Bishr, are you the one holding the news of Hussain?" Bishr at that moment was confused. Who is this lady? Until one person turns her out to Bishr. He tells him, "Oh Bishr, this is Al-Banin. This is the mother. Would say, "Oh Bishr, tell me the news of Hussain. Where is my son Hussain?" Here Bishr didn't want to tell her straight away, so he told her, "عظم الله لك الأجر بولدك عبد الله. My condolences to you, Abdullah." Here Al-Banin would reply, "Oh Bishr, did I ask you about Abdullah? Please tell me what happened to Hussain." Here Bishr would say, "عظم الله لك الأجر بولدك عثمان." Hussain. Here Bishop would say, my condolences to you and your son Abbas. He was left by the river with no hands, with an arrow on his eyes and a ball on his head. Al-Baneen would reply, oh Bishop, did I ask you about Abbas? Oh Bishop, tell me what happened to my son Hussain. Here Bishop got broken. He said, عظم الله لك الأجر بولدك الحسين. My condolences to you and your son Hussain. He was left on the plains of Karbala with no head. أفلح من نادى حسينا. Here Al-Baneen starts weeping. Here Al-Baneen starts crying. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. وسيعلم الذين ظلموا آل محمد أي منقلب ينقلبون والعاقبة للمتقين. Oh Allah, we ask you by the right of Al-Baneen, by the status of Al-Baneen, and her 4 martyred children, and her 4 martyred sons. Ya Allah, accept our deeds, Ya Allah. Protect our loved ones, Ya Allah. Cure our ill ones. Oh Allah, accept our deeds and the deeds of those who have organized this majlis. And for the souls of our marhumeen and the marhumeen of those who have organized the majlis, please recite a Fatiha before it. Ala salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.